unearned fame and fortune are far more destructive than they might appear. And right now, there's no organization on the planet that proves this point more than the WNBA. The league just posted its highest average game viewership in 24 years. They're bringing in massive new sponsorships, at least by the league standard. They're selling out arenas, which used to be unheard of for the WNBA. And this should be a dream come true for everybody involved in the WNBA.
Ever wonder why a superstar like Caitlin Clark is facing backlash in the WNBA? It's not what you think. The league has been riding high, with viewership numbers soaring, player benefits improving, and women's basketball finally in the spotlight. But just as things seemed to be at their peak, a series of wild accusations began to...
From the executives to the players to the reporters who, for their sins in a past life, have been cursed with the job of covering a women's basketball league, everyone should be overjoyed. But there's a big problem. All of this success, every bit of it, is due to the presence of one player in the league, and that is a generational talent named Caitlin Clark, who of course you've heard of, and still probably the only WNBA player whose name you know.
Surface, shaking things up. Veteran WNBA players have started making claims that have left fans and analysts scratching their heads. Matt Walsh isn't buying it, though, calling out what he sees as hypocrisy, armed with the facts, figures, and a list of names. Stick around as we dive deep into the shocking truth behind one of the WNBA's biggest controversies, one you might not see coming. You won't believe what some players are saying behind the scenes. Let's set the stage. Caitlin Clark steps onto the WNBA scene, and almost overnight, the league undergoes a
She's the reason the WNBA just won the lottery. Without Caitlin Clark, nobody cares about any of these players or the league. With her, most people still don't care, but a lot more people care than did before. And everybody knows that, right? Therefore, everyone in the league other than Caitlin Clark is doing exactly what so many lottery winners do. They're allowing all of their worst personality traits to surface because they just can't help themselves.
Complete transformation. She's not just making waves, she's creating a tidal wave of change. Viewership is skyrocketing to record-breaking heights, with executives stunned by the surge in attention. Arenas that once echoed with silence are now packed to the rafters, the atmosphere electric with excitement. Women's basketball has finally become the hottest ticket in town.
You know, there are a lot of stories out there about lottery winners who go on to destroy their lives. Something like 70% of them supposedly go bankrupt within a few years. It's not hard to see how that would happen. When you give a lot of money and attention to a person who didn't earn any of it, that person doesn't suddenly change overnight. Instead, more often than not, all of their worst character traits are amplified 10 times over, and in many cases, that leads to a very public and humiliating collapse. This is a principle that doesn't just apply to individuals, it turns out. It applies to organizations too.
The popularity is bringing in big money. Sponsorships are flooding in, and lucrative deals are rolling out at an unprecedented rate. It's as though the floodgates have opened, and everyone wants a piece of the WNBA pie. Players are reaping the benefits of this newfound success, while the league is getting recognition from unexpected sources and a fresh fanbase. But here's the twist: things aren't all rosy behind the scenes. Despite all this success, not everyone is happy. Some players are grumbling, and that's raising a lot of...
There's been a lot of resentment in this league lately, in particular since the season began. And the thing about resentment, as we all know, is that it tends to fester over time. It gets worse and worse. That's exactly what we're seeing now.
Eyebrows. It seems baffling. How can anyone be upset when the league is finally getting the recognition it's long deserved? Is it jealousy over Caitlin Clark's rapid rise? Are players worried about how this shift could affect their own careers? Or is there something deeper at play here? It's the million-dollar question. Just when it seems like the WNBA is soaring to new heights, a bombshell drops. Explosive accusations of racism begin to surface.
Race hysteria in the WNBA has somehow reached yet another inflection point. The league is currently in the midst of what really might be the single most contrived racism scandal, certainly in any professional sport, at least since the fake noose in Bubba Wallace's garage. Specifically, a bunch of WNBA players have come out claiming that they've been victimized by racial slurs and other forms of racist attacks. Like, a lot of players are claiming this.
To divide the league. Brittany Griner, one of the biggest stars in the game, makes a shocking claim: new fans are shouting slurs at games. But Griner's not alone in this. Alyssa Thomas, a veteran player with over a decade of experience, backs up her claims with some fiery words of her own. This is no small issue, and these are no small accusations.
How do you feel about what has happened over the past year with the W since you first came in to where it is now, and obviously the game has grown and there's new fans, but how do you appreciate the new fans without all the noise that's coming
I don't
with
appreciate the
them?
new fans that sit there and yell racial slurs at myself, my teammates, and the people that I play against. Because yeah, those might be opponents, but those are friends too. You know, they don't deserve that. So I don't appreciate the new fans. I think it's okay to do that.
But here's the catch: something isn't quite adding up. Matt Walsh, never one to shy away from controversy, starts digging into these claims, raising questions that many are starting.
The question that Brittany Griner was asked was about the massive growth of this league, which was dead in the water just a year ago and had been dead for its entire existence. And the reporter asked, "What do you think of all the new fans?" And like in any other context, when someone says, "What do you think of all the new fans that are coming in?" Usually it's, "Oh, it's great. We love how everybody is supporting the league and we're so grateful." None of that. Instead of some gratitude, some appreciation for the people who have saved the WNBA, who pay to come out to see bad players like Brittany Griner, instead of that, we get resentment.
To wonder, if these incidents are truly happening, why hasn't there been a single piece of evidence? In today's world,
honestly, it's been a lot of nonsense. I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it, and we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media, and there's no place for it.
Where everyone has a camera in their pocket and arenas are filled with fans recording every moment, why hasn't anyone captured these alleged slurs on video? It's a head-scratcher. To say the least, Matt Walsh doesn't hold back. He's boldly stating that the accusations swirling around the WNBA are entirely fabricated. It's a daring claim.
In other words, they're now accusing the people who have started showing up to WNBA games for the first time in more than 2 decades of being horrible racists.
But it's sparking debate. However, that raises an important question. Why would players lie about something so serious? This question has ignited a heated conversation among fans, critics, and insiders alike. Are the players simply trying to stir up drama, or is there something deeper at play here?
So now for the fine print. None of these racial slurs we're told about, some of which have supposedly occurred during games, none of them, as far as I'm aware, have actually been caught on camera. Interesting. There's no visual or audio evidence that might substantiate any of this. Not a single credible report, even. That's extremely unusual, obviously, given that there are cameras and smartphones at every WNBA game.
This controversy is threatening to tear the league apart. On one side, you have players who feel victimized and are calling for action. On the other, there are skeptics like Walsh who are demanding hard evidence before making any judgments. Caught in the middle of this storm are the fans, the sponsors, and the very future of the WNBA itself. Imagine this, a packed arena, the crowd buzzing with anticipation as Caitlin.
Then the videos would be all over the internet. But those videos are not all over the internet. They're not anywhere on the internet. So instead, we have to take the player's word for it.
Clark dominates the court. Suddenly, everything changes. Clark is down on the floor, clutching her face. What just happened? Let's rewind to that fateful moment. Dick Carrington goes for the ball, and the next thing you know, Clark is on the ground. The crowd gasps, some booing as no foul is called. The referees let the play slide.
Nothing about the answer makes sense, even in that context. I mean, why would that be the first thing that Griner mentions when the reporter asks about the fans? Why not say, well, the overwhelming majority of the fans are great people. I'm so happy that they're paying money, and I'm so grateful to have them. Like, why wouldn't you, even if this was happening, why wouldn't you start with that?
Social media explodes, with fans dissecting the replay. Was it intentional? Was it an accident? The controversy is just beginning. Enter Christine Brennan, a veteran reporter from USA Today, who asks Dick Carrington about the incident. It's a typical journalistic move, right? A reporter doing their job and asking a straightforward question. But the backlash that followed was intense. The WNBA Players Association didn't just disagree with Brennan's question, they went on the offensive, accusing her of being unprofessional and trying to create a
as everyone else is seeing this angle. I'm calling her in and I'm saying to her, I need answers.
false narrative. All of this simply for asking about a play. Players Association even called for USA Today to review its journalistic ethics, but asking tough questions about controversial plays.
When you went and kind of swatted at Caitlin, did you intend to hit her in the eye? And if so, could you just, or if not, either way, could you talk about what happened on that play?
This is a part of sports journalism.
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me. But no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her. So obviously it's never intentional. That's not even like the type of player that I am.
It happens in other leagues all the time. Why is it suddenly off limits in the WNBA when stars get fouled in other leagues? Reporters ask about it.
It's not offensive. It's the bare minimum you'd expect under the circumstances. It's the kind of questions that reporters ask male athletes all the time. When there's a foul, when there's a scuffle, it's the same kind of questions. But Carrington immediately gets snippy and obnoxious in response. And then just for asking these questions, Brennan, who incidentally is one of the biggest champions of women's sports in the industry, is now getting dogpiled. In particular, the WNBA Players Association just put out one of the most demented statements imaginable.
But in the WNBA, it seems tough questions are being scrutinized for hidden agendas.
We call BS to unprofessional members of the media like Christine Brennan. You are not fooling anyone. That so-called interview in the name of journalism was a blatant attempt to bait a professional athlete into participating in a narrative that is false and designed to fuel racist, homophobic, and misogynistic vitriol on social media. You cannot hide behind your tenure.
This situation is no longer just about one play or one question. It's about the broader relationship between players, the media, and fans. It's about transparency, accountability, and the role of sports journalism in shaping the narrative. As the dust settles, it's clear that women's basketball is at a critical crossroads. How the league handles this situation could have long-term consequences for the sport and its coverage, and just when you thought the drama couldn't get any more intense, enter Angel Reese and Asia.
So we're at the point now that journalists can't even ask black players about fouls they commit against Caitlin Clark without being accused of racism and somehow also homophobia for asking the question. That's how much racism there is in the WNBA. Even asking questions is now racist, which I guess we already knew.
Wilson. These two WNBA stars are about to add fuel to an already blazing fire. But here's the kicker: the media is no longer just reporting on the story, they're becoming part of it. Let's focus on Angel Reese for a moment. She's openly calling out the media, accusing them of profiting from her pain. Reese claims that the media has created a villainous narrative about her and has ignored her calls for accountability. Media, she says, is running with this narrative without fact-checking or even questioning the claims. And that's where Matt Walsh steps in, pointing fingers at the media, accusing them of being complicit in creating.
You're not going to see any of that on video or hear any of it, but just take their word for it. Take the WNBA's word for it. Take the media's word for it. Yet some WNBA players are still upset that the media isn't making an even bigger deal out of the fake racism scandal.
A contrived scandal. Walsh argues that they're reporting on a crisis that doesn't even exist, comparing it to other sports controversies that turned out to be nothing more than fabrications. Meanwhile, MVP Asia Wilson has weighed in on the situation as well. The WNBA has been scrambling to manage the fallout, issuing
I don't really get to stand up for myself. I don't really get to speak out on things just because I just try to ignore, and I just try to stand strong. Like, I've been through so much. I've seen so much. I've been attacked so many times. I've been sexualized.
Statements condemning the comments made by Reese and others, and promising to take action. Sounds like the league is doing its part, right? Well, Walsh isn't convinced. He's questioning how effective these measures can be when there's no solid.
Angel Reese says the media should have done more to combat the ongoing issue of racism in women's basketball before it reached a boiling point.
Evidence to support the accusations. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Despite all the drama unfolding, the WNBA is actually experiencing significant growth. The league has achieved its highest average game viewership in 24 years. Rather than celebrating this monumental success, all eyes are on the controversy. It's as if the league can't catch a break. This entire situation is causing a divide among players. Some, like Reese and Wilson, are doubling.
Reese, however, said her pleas for accountability and action have been repeatedly ignored. Quote, "The media has benefited from my pain and me being villainized to create a narrative," she wrote on X. "They allowed this. This was beneficial to them. Y'all a little late to the party and could have tried to put out this fire way before it started."
Down on their claims, while others remain suspiciously silent.
Asia Wilson is her name. Quote, "It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is.
Are they staying quiet because they don't want to rock the boat, or do they have a different perspective on the situation altogether? As for the fans, they're left trying to navigate this complex web of conflicting narratives and emotions. The future of the WNBA is at stake, and how the league handles these internal conflicts could determine its trajectory for years to come. Fans are starting to ask tough questions too. Some are rallying behind the players who have spoken out, while others remain skeptical of the accusations. It's as if everyone is caught in a whirlwind of claims and counterclaims, unsure of where it will all land. Witnessing a pivotal moment.
And the Fever are going to be over 200,000 higher than the next highest total attendance in league history. Clarkonomics, my friend.
Moment in sports history? Or is this just a storm in a teacup? Only time will tell. Just when you thought the WNBA drama couldn't escalate any further, Caitlin Clark steps into the spotlight. The anticipation was palpable. Would she follow the typical playbook of rookies in controversies?
Have you ever had any encounters with things like that since you've been in the WNBA?
No, never.
Who often choose to stay silent, or would she chart her own course? Here's where it gets interesting. Clark finally breaks her silence, and her words send shockwaves through the entire league. She doesn't mince words when she says she's not buying into the narrative. Instead, she calls out the bad actors without generalizing or accusing all fans of wrongdoing. That's not all. Clark goes on to praise.
You have to be careful when you say like the Fever fans, because I don't think it's the Fever fans. I think it's the people that wanted Caitlin Clark to be a certain type of way, and they thought that she was, and so they became Caitlin Clark fans, assuming that, and then they realized like, oh no, she's actually not racist.
Both new and old fans for their support. In the midst of all this controversy, she actually thanks them. It's as if she's walking a tightrope, carefully balancing between supporting her fellow players and defending the fans who've rallied behind her. Now, here's where things get juicy. Clark throws another curveball. She urges everyone to focus on the positive and not to get bogged down in the negativity. But is she being naive, or is she onto something? The reactions to Clark's statements are mixed. Some fans praise her for
nobody in our league should be facing any sort of racism, hurtful, disrespectful, hateful comments and threats. Those aren't fans, those are trolls, and it's a real disservice to the people in our league, the organization, the WNBA.
Not playing the victim card, impressed by her measured response. Others, however, are not convinced. Claim that Clark is out of touch and doesn't fully understand what her fellow players are going through. Matt Walsh is having a field day with this.
But there are a lot of really good fans, whether they've been fans for 20 plus years or whether they're new fans in our league.
He's all over Clark's response, using it as ammunition to prove his point that the entire controversy is being blown out of proportion. Walsh practically shouts from the rooftops, saying, even Caitlin Clark doesn't think there's widespread racism in the league. But what does that mean for the other players who are still
continuing to uplift this league in a very positive light is the best thing that we can do, because there are so many great players, there's so many great teams, there are so many positive storylines that can be written and celebrated, and for me, that's why I became a fan of this league, is these people were my idols. I grew up wanting to be like them.
Still speaking out. Clark doesn't see what they see. What's really going on here? Is this all just a big
Continuing to uplift and, represent this league in a positive way is the best thing that we can do.
Understanding? Or is there something deeper at play? Let's dive into the bombshell Matt Walsh just dropped. Are you ready for this? Walsh suggests that the entire WNBA controversy isn't about racism at all. Instead, he argues, it's about something much more personal, envy. When Caitlin Clark steps onto the court, the WNBA suddenly starts buzzing like never before. Ticket sales soar, sponsors line up, and the league receives unprecedented attention. Clark isn't just any player, she's a generational talent. But here's the kicker, she's white in a league where about 80% of the players are black. According to Walsh, that's stirring up some strong emotions among her peers. Some players, he argues, are
This is just too manufactured and overblown to take seriously. They're reaching to a degree that's comical and delusional at the same time. This scandal has been invented out of whole cloth by WNBA players for one reason and one reason only. They are racked with envy and resentment that the most popular player in the league is white.
Jealous of Clark's success. Why? Because Clark is quickly becoming the face of the league, with endorsement deals that make other players' contracts look like pocket change. Talking about a rookie potentially earning more off the court than some veterans do on it. Walsh believes this isn't just about Caitlin Clark herself, it's about the growing pains of the WNBA as it evolves. The league is changing, and not everyone is on board with how it's happening. You've got established players who've been grinding for years, and then suddenly, a rookie like Clark comes in and changes the game. This isn't unique to the WNBA. Other sports leagues have gone through similar growing.
What they're really claiming is that Caitlin Clark, by bringing a bunch of white fans to the league, has naturally also brought racism. Basically, they're complaining that too many white people are watching women's basketball now.
Campaigns when new stars emerge. Issues like representation, star treatment, and the rising popularity of certain players often lead to controversy. When these growing pains occur, there's usually a clash of old guard and new stars. So, what does this mean for the WNBA? The league is at a crossroads. They're trying to keep their longtime fans happy while also welcoming a new wave of attention and popularity. It's a balancing act, and right now, it looks like the league is wobbling. How the WNBA handles these challenges will be crucial for defining its.
Before long, people start to push back. No normal person wants to pay money to support a team only to be told that they're racist and horrible for doing it. It's a big part of why the DEI grift has begun to collapse.
Future. Caitlin Clark may be bringing in fresh excitement, but it's also sparking difficult conversations about sports, race, and human nature. Experts say the league has a golden opportunity for growth, but there's a catch. If not managed carefully, the drama could backfire. We've seen similar situations in other sports. Sometimes these controversies propel a league to new heights, while other times they lead to a crash and burn. The WNBA is facing the same issues that have rocked other sports, and how they handle this will
It's clear that, none of these players or executives or sports journalists really want the league to succeed anyway. To borrow an adage from the world of sports commentary, you might even say that the WNBA is like a rubber band, one that's been stretched to the limit by pathological narcissists who only know how to complain and demean their own fans on the basis of their skin color. And one deranged sports podcast and self-pitying press conference at a time, that rubber band is about to break.
Determine their future. Keep your eyes on this one. Will the WNBA emerge stronger, or will the challenges prove too much? The next season could be game-changing for the league's future. What do you think? Do you agree with the assessment? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.